right, today is day 14 of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, and day 14 typically focuses on raising awareness on the impact of gender-based violence and advocating for solutions to end such violences. Now, tonight we'll be having a conversation to find ways in which we can bring men and boys in this conversation and to engage them as allies in ending violence against women and girls. That will be the conversation and to the point. But first, as it is our custom right here, let's take a look at the stories making headlines tonight. Tonight, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has criticized the absence of a properly constituted Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC.
Of IEBC urgently and as of yesterday ndio waanze kupanga mikakati ya uchaguzi.
While Deputy President Kithure Kindiki has absolved the government of blame regarding the absence of the commission. The Mzuka Fast convoy arrives today in Kisumu County, where the locals warmly received them in various parts of the county. This is courtesy of Cape Media Company. And today in our special feature, we focus on the dangers of illicit alcohol in the country.
Juu mwenyewe alikuwa anatengeneza pombe, hana license ya kutengeneza pombe.
All right, 22047 is our SMS line. You're live on our social media platforms, our TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube, at TV47 News KE. The hashtag is to the point. My name is Anne Odida, and on the sign language interpretation desk is Calvin Makori. Let's get started. Now, pressure is mounting on President William Ruto's government to help create a new electoral commission as the 2027 general election draws closer, with the opposition warning of a potential constitutional crisis. Now, according to former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, IEBC reconstitution delay could compromise the credibility of the upcoming elections. And as Mike Kagwengo reports, Kenyans may have to wait until January for the process to begin, as two legal cases have halted the reconstitution of a new electoral agency.
The delay to reconstitute the electoral agency less than 3 years before the general election has faced more critique than patience, with Kenyans reading malice of what they now say is a ploy to sabotage the process. Former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, while speaking in a church service at PCEA Mweki, Kasarani, Nairobi County Sunday, warned that delays could compromise the credibility of the upcoming elections.
Krigira report walisema the Electoral Commission must be in place 3 years before the election. Sasa tumebaki mwaka mbili unusu. Hakuna IEBC. And people can read mischief. Kwa nini IEBC hapana weko? So we are calling for the constitution of IEBC.
Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka chastised the state, and in particular President William Ruto, for creating the constitutional crisis by failing to reconstitute the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC.
State capture continues, even of the judiciary. The fact they are not even able to move this process forward. So we are calling them out that this is a William Ruto strategy to make sure that there is no IEBC.
Despite the ongoing legal battle over the issue, a section of Kenyans has criticized the executive and parliament for their silence, which has increased pressure on the government to start hiring new commissioners.
Tuko hatarini sana kama IEBC haitakuwa constituted tukielekea 2027. Na sana kuna watu ambao hana wakilishi wamefariki pale, na sasa hakuna mambo ya kufanya by election kwa haya makao.
Supreme Court Judge Isaac Lenaola fueled the pressure for the commission's reconstitution by cautioning that the protracted delay might make it more difficult for the commission to prepare for the elections.
Ikiwa mpaka watu wakubwa sana majaji wa Supreme Court wamesema Kenya hii haiwezi kuendelea kama hakuna IEBC. Na wewe kama rais umepatiwa nafasi ya kuweka IEBC. Weka IEBC kama hakuna kitu unaficha.
Deputy President Kithure Kindiki, however, pleaded with the involved parties who filed the cases in court to withdraw and allow a seamless process to take place.
There are some who are blaming the government. Now, when there's an injunction, the government is not able to do anything. So we request those who filed those cases to go and reach an out-of-court settlement so that the injunction is lifted.
Ombi langu ni kuomba viongozi wote waweze kuunga viongozi wetu wakiongozwa na Mheshimiwa Rais katika ile harakati ya kubuni tume huru la mipaka na uchaguzi ili kufanikisha by-election zetu.
According to the Independent Review Commission, the electoral agency must be in place 3 years before the elections. But since the resignation of 4 IEBC commissioners, the electoral body is yet to be reconstituted. Mike Kagwango, TV47, Nairobi.
Candidates Registration Center.
Thank you, Mike. Now, a debate is intensifying among political leaders regarding church donations after some churches rejected such contributions. Speaking at various events, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki and Sports Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen urged churches to respect the government and avoid inciting the public. Violet Ouma reports that former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has emphasized that leaders should accept criticism from voters.
Speaking in different meetings, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki and Sports Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen have asked churches to respect and criticize the government without inciting the people. Speaking at a Thanksgiving church service at Friends Quakers Church in Chebuyusi, Navakholo constituency, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki extended an olive branch to the church leaders and asked them to respectfully criticize the government.
Tunaheshimu dini zote, lakini vile vile kanisa pia iheshimu serikali. We do not mind us being advised of how we can improve those things. But when you advise us, please do it in love and don't tear apart the country. Don't incite people.
Kindiki, who was accompanied by other leaders from Kakamega, including Kakamega Governor Fernandez Baraza, also defended church donations as well as government projects, urging support from all quarters.
Na Biblia inasema kwamba mkono ambao umebarikiwa ni ule mkono unato.
Na yule mwingine alikuwa anaongea tu murima. Akiamuka murima, akilala na bibi yake murima.
Every citizen should register themselves for Taifa Care because it's going to work this time.
Elsewhere, speaking at the Life Gospel Church and Tubuchio, Igembe, Meru County, Sports Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen said that the donations are meant for God and not for church leaders as perceived, a statement echoed by Igembe South MP John Paul Mwerigi.
Hata wale wa makanisa mengine wenye wamesoma Biblia nusu na wanafikiria kwamba tunatoa pesa tuwatolee, nataka niwaambie kutoka Meru hapa ya kwamba sitoleangi pesa pastor yoyote ama bishop yoyote. Nikitoa pesa yangu namtolea Mwenyezi Mungu. Na mwenye anataka kurudisha pesa yenye nimetoa aende arudishie Mungu.
Mhubiri ametuambia kutoka enzi zile vile ambavyo watu walikuwa wanatoa dhabihu. Kwa hivyo hayo maongezi ama hayo mazungumzo sisi hayatatuzuia kushiriki katika kanisa na pia kutoa mchango katika kanisa.
Murkomen made a donation of 500,000 Kenyan shillings and handed over 2 million and 1 million contribution from the President and Deputy President respectively towards construction of the church. Meanwhile, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, on the other hand, has called on elected leaders to stop belittling those demanding for accountability.
Na tungetaka kuuliza serikali yetu tafadhali, be tolerant to divergent opinion. Hao wa Kenya wakisema mambo hapana iko sawa, hapana pigia hao makelele. Hao ndio wamekuajiri kazi. Makasiriko ni ya nini?
While speaking at the PCEA Mwiki Church in Kasarani constituency, Gachagua said that leaders should be tolerant and address challenges raised by Kenyans.
Tuwache kuwakemea viongozi wa kanisa, tuwaheshimu na tuwasikize. Na tukiangalia pahali Kenya imefika, wabunge wamenyamazishwa isipokuwa hawa. Si ndio? Maseneta wamenyamazishwa. Kila mtu amenyamazishwa. Kanisa isipoongea si tutakwisha.
Lakini kanisa halisemi mtu asitoe. Kile ambacho kanisa linasema ni mtu asije akatoa ili atununue.
Reporting for TV47, I'm Violet Auma.
Now, 19 members of parliament in the National Assembly have not contributed to debates this year, and as Kinto Wafula reports, Parliament Oscar Sudi and Makadara MP George Aladwa, who were on the list of shame last year, feature again this year. Take a look.
Despite the primary role of an MP being to represent the opinions of their constituents, who are also voters, and to discuss matters of national and social importance, a report by Mzalendo Trust, which relies on official recording of the Hansard in every debate in the parliament, reveals that voices from 19 constituencies have not been presented in the parliament from August last year to December this year, despite those responsible being in the House.
Members on their feet, take the nearest seat.
Members of parliament who did not contribute to parliamentary debates include Oscar Sudi of Kapseret, Paul Aboro of Frongo, Irene Kasalu of Kitui, Charles Gumini of Hamisi, Joseph Tonoi of Kuresoi South, Martha Nyamabe of Kuria West, Samuel Kinudi of Subukia, Patrick Barasa of Cherengani, Paul Chaboro of Rongai, Dana Joseph Hamisi and Joseph Wainaina, who are nominated MPs, Stephen Karani of Laikipia West, Mohamed Sod of Mvita, Irene Njoki of Bahati, Alfred Mutai of Kuresoi North, Patrick Oseri of Borabu, Clement Sloya of Sabatia, Bare Abdi of Tabaj, and George Alado of Makadara are among the 19 MPs whose contributions were not captured by the parliamentary recording system.
Asante Mheshimiwa Speaker.
On the other house, Kwale Senator Isa Boijuma and two nominated Senator Shakila Mohammed and Betty Batuli were mentioned as the least vocal senators who missed hearings of at least 5 critical bills, including Social Health Insurance Bill and Affordable Housing Bill.
Order number 16.
Mzalendo is a Kenyan non-partisan parliamentary monitoring organization that promotes open, inclusive, and accountable parliaments across Kenya and Africa. Kinto Wafula, TV47.
This is an important bill.
Thank you, Kinto, for that report. Now, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua will rely on technology to connect with the public while reducing attendance at public events. Moige William reports that his allies cite safety concerns, revealing plans to make his phone number public to ensure his political influence endures.
Chaos erupted during a burial in Bibirioni, Limuru, Kiambu County, which allies of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua claim was an attempt on his life. In response, Gachagua has reduced his public appearance but continues to assert his influence by intensifying his criticism of President William Ruto. Their fallout ultimately led to Gachagua's impeachment.
His presence is somehow felt by the government of the day, and they want to disrupt everywhere he goes. And so, because he does not want the people to be harmed, he has retreated back.
Gachagua is now turning to phone calls and technology as his new tool to maintain relevance and build a support base, particularly in the vote-rich Mount Kenya region.
In fact, it is now even more effective than him going to one meeting. Because I'll be in a meeting in Nyandarua, another person will be in a meeting in Kiambu, another person will be in a meeting in elsewhere, and he'll be able to speak to as many people. Everywhere there is an event in Mount Kenya. Because if he comes, they are mobilizing goons who are sponsored by the government to come and harm people. So what we are going to do, we will tell him, you sit somewhere. We will be calling you and address the people.
Senators Medho and Tangwa revealing the tech tack employed by Gachagua was the best choice, alleging that there have been attempts on the life of the former deputy president, who is allegedly seen as a political threat to the government of the day.
Any MC, in any funeral, in any wedding, in any gathering, we will be making sure that we are engaging them so that they can call, and the deputy president within a minute, he will be talking to his people. So we are saying it is not an act of cowardice to retreat. It is an act of caring and understanding the government is hell-bent to do harm to him and, of course, to the people of Mount Kenya. The people who are making it difficult for the deputy president to move is government, because security of every Kenyan, including the deputy president, is the responsibility of government. If they cannot provide security to the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua, that is to mean they want to scale him down. But that is just a small bit
Earlier, Gachagua released a statement accusing the government of withdrawing his security detail. This past Sunday, he escaped to scheduled events, reappearing later at a PCA Mwiki church service in Nairobi County. Mwigi William, TV47.
Now, as the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence comes to an end, efforts are focused on Boda riders nationwide, urging them to ensure the safety of their predominantly female clientele. According to statistics, women constitute 60% of Boda customers. In response, the Office of the Presidential Advisor on Women's Rights, Transport Stakeholders and NTSA have launched the Passengers Are Fragile campaign, emphasizing protective gear use, emergency response and gender violence awareness.
Gatuzi letu la Kakamega ambalo linaongozwa na gavana wetu His Excellency Fernandes Barasa pia kuna 6-point agendas. Ya muhimu ni social development ambapo tuna social protection grants kwa wanapata boda ambao wamejiunga kwa vikundi zinaitwa self help groups. Wanapata wanakuwa empowered na shilingi 50,000 ili kujikimu kimaisha. Wanaboda hoye. Na hii pia itahakikisha tunaweza kununua helmet hata reflectors na kuanzisha wanabiashara kidogo kidogo.
60% ya wale wanaobebwa na bodaboda Kenya ni wanawake. So kwa sababu hii ni ofisi yako hii bodaboda, wanalipa sana. Kwa sababu hao wanalipa sana, sasa tuangalie hii ndio ofisi yenu, si ndio? Na mtu uchunga ofisi yake.
Tujilinde na tulinde akina mama. Akina mama ndio wametuwekelea. Unaishi na bibi, umezaliwa na mwanamke, unaishi na mwanamke. Sawa. Hawa wanawake ambao wanauawa huku, warembo wanauawa hapa, ni dada ya mtu, ni aunti ya mtu, ni mama ya mtu. Kwa hivyo tusikubali, ni bibi ya mtu. Kama vile ungependa hiyo kitu ifanyikie mtu wenyu, sawa, usitaki ifanyikie mtu mwingine. Tuko sawa sawa? Yeah. Wanabodaboda wewe? Tumesema safe homes, safe spaces. Sawa sawa? Yeah.
Now, Kenya's fight against illegal alcohol remains a persistent challenge. Now, in February this year, 23 people died after consuming illicit brew in Kangai and Mutithi villages of Kirinyaga County. Ruga Ival visited the affected families who shared lessons and fears about the possible return of the lethal brew known as California. Take a look.
Chambilia kunjira oi ningukua
akiwekwa kwa miruke wakakuwa na uchungu sana.
Just at 25 Kenyan shillings only, 28 lives were lost. On February 5th this year, 2024, will remain a day indelibly stamped in the memories of the Kangai and Mutithi villages of Kirinyaga County. Mentioned the day to the residents, and tears of pain flow freely down their cheeks, ripping through a wound that is yet to heal. A pilgrimage of death covered this village known for banana farming. Statistics indicate the aftermath of the unforgettable incident. 4 out of 5 families lost at least one member, if not 2, and if lucky, to outsmart the edge of death, some were left blind. Those who had husbands were left widows. Those who had wives were left widowers. And those who had parents were left orphans. The unpalatable incident did not spare the elderly nor the youthful. The genesis of all this menace was a second-generation alcohol, a liquor sold at a local bar named after an American state, California. Some of California's victims were Alice Wanjiru Njogu, Stella Muthoni, and Monica Wanjiru Mutugi. Paul Wachira Njiraine, Josephine Wakuthi Ndama, Francis Moshira Mugo, John Joseph Mureithi, Peter Mwai Githae, Francis Muiruri Wawero, and Monica Wanjiru Mutugi are some of those who died after consuming the California liquor. Joseph Gishamba is one of the lucky to have survived the killer of illicit alcohol. Gishamba, living to tell of how he cheated death, narrates how it all started as a normal day for him. On the fateful morning, he went about his errands just like any other day. Unknown to Gishamba, after work, he made a stop at the California bar for a drink. Unknown to Gishamba, even his wife had taken a share of the killer drink. At first, he felt completely healthy, but he and his wife were suddenly struck by panic, leading them to decide to seek medical evaluation at Keregoya Referral Hospital. Upon arriving at the hospital, they encountered a long queue of neighbors who were as well intoxicated by the alcohol and were in critical conditions. Suddenly, life and death separated the two. At this time, Gishamba began experiencing severe pain. After receiving a series of first aid, he discovered that his vision was fading moment by moment. The last person Gishamba saw was the doctor who was administering an injection in an effort to restore his eyesight, but the efforts didn't yield any positive results. Gishamba was one of the three who survived after consuming the California illicit liquor. Dressed in regret and sorrow, as he narrates to me the flow of events of that day. Immaculate Mwai, now a widow following the death of her husband, Peter Mwai Githae, had only lived for 50 years before the California liquor abruptly snuffed out his life.
Amuuliza mbambawili, wewe ulikunywa hiyo pombe? Akaniambia hapana. Lakini ukimuona akona anaenda mpole pole kwa sababu amekunywa hiyo pombe, lakini anasema wewe hawezi kunywa pombe hiyo.
On the day of his impending death, Mwai wandered outside in fear, avoiding telling his wife Immaculate and his family the truth about having consumed that alcohol, hoping to escape the fate that awaited him like his peers, unaware that death was knocking at his door.
Hiyo wakati wa kutuma hiyo pesa wakiwekwa kwa miruke, wakakuwa na uchungu sana.
And thus he lost his beloved, leaving Immaculate with the heavy burden of supporting a family now placed on Immaculate's shoulders.
Hao wengine brother yangu walikuwa huko wamekunja, wakaniambia ameaga. Tukakunja kwa mboma. Hiyo mambo yake ikaishia hapo. Familia ya hii mboma ama ya hii mboma yetu yote, hakuna mtu anatushughulikia. Mimi peke yangu na watoto wangu.
But this family fears for another tragedy. The first child of the family indulges in alcohol taking, despite the taunting experience of what illicit alcohol can result to.
Mimi nakunywanga.
Githae believes that this was a merely misfortune, but people, especially the youth, should be cautious and vigilant about the alcohol they consume, particularly when it is sold at a low price.
Unajua kuna zile pombe uanga zimedhibitiwa, zenye zimekubaliwa kuuzwa. Sasa hii yenye iliua watu, juu mwenyewe alikuwa anatengeneza pombe, hana license ya kutengeneza pombe. Kitu ya kwanza. hii pombe ilikuwa inatengenezwa nyumbani. Si ile pombe kuna kuanga na madaktari wa kupima, inapimwa inaonekana kama imekubaliwa kukunywa na watu. So hii ni pombe ilikuwa pombe haramu. Sasa kama ingekuwa ni hii pombe nyingine yenye imekubaliwa, hiyo sijaisikia pombe imeua mtu.
In another homestead a few kilometers away is Francis Njogu's home. Njogu is a widower who lost his wife, Alice Wanjiru Njogu, in the tragic ordeal.
Ndoka nangali ngikora ne bingo arabo macuka ne atumia. Murekeri cio no gutora kirogoya. Akinya kirogoya na gukwakwire.
The chronology of the fateful day remains vivid to Francis Njogu. The gap of having a partner to support remains open without anyone to fill it, and no one has the ability actually to fill it.
Na mundu aikie bakorwa bana uru muno. To ntingirina ko kanandi nako njoka nginya nyikira riko. Githakina mundu akundugira.
These two brothers, though not related by blood, were close friends, Francis Njogu and Peter Ndama Moiru. When Ndama saw his friend recounting the death of his wife, he moved closer to support his friend. Pete still held on to memories of that tragic day. The wives of these two men were so very close friends. On the day of the incident, the wife Tundama called on Alice Wanjiru Njogu to share the alcohol she had purchased from California.
Siku hiyo walikuwa pamoja na bibi ya huyu. Na akashinda msema mzima wakinywa pombe.
None of them knew they were calling death, and within 24 hours they would no longer be alive.
Tukiamka asubuhi, yeye alienda. Kwa vile tukaanza kufikiria tutasaidiana na vipi.
Ndama's son joins in the conversation, taking us through the fateful day, how he tried to persuade his mother to go to the hospital, but she ignored him, dying on the bed.
Akiambia apeleke hospitali, yeye anakataa. Hata huyu alienda, huyu mama kwa sababu tulikuwa tunamwambia tumpeleke hospitali akakataa. Alikuwa anapatia huyu chupa. Ndio sisi tusijue ama anatumana ingine. Kwa sababu je, unajua ilikuwa huko kwa mandisi huko.
The death of their loved ones has changed these men. These events of death left them with no choice but to decide to stop drinking alcohol and condemn the habit of alcohol consumption.
Msema bana kunywa tena.
Na sisi tumewasha pombe pamoja na huyu mzee.
Nitakasoke.
The California liquor left Kangai village with the scar of graves in every homestead. If you visit this village, one thing is clear: crosses all bearing the date, the 5th of February, the year 2024. A sufficient lesson that the locals would stop consuming alcohol, especially illicit liquor. However, it turns out that this is not enough. Moses, though not his real name, reveals that the sale of alcohol has resumed in this village.
Wakilabu wanapika hiyo pombe, tunasikia Njugu Rigathi ametoa, wanatengeneza vilabu juu warudishe hiyo pombe kwa masinaji.
Moses speaks to me with concern and continues to inform me that this alcohol is now transported at midnight. The alcohol itself has been given the nickname Maboko, after the owner of the California club, John Mureithi, was released on a bail of 1 Kenyan million shillings. Locals vowed never to welcome him back to the village for the bitter sour scars the alcohol he sold to unsuspecting clients left on about 28 families. Putting forth the claims and concerns of the residents to the local administration, this was the response we got. The chief assures me that all clubs that were selling alcohol were closed and licenses have been reissued.
Currently hizo pombe zenye zilikuwa zinatengezwa na ethanol haziko kabisa kwa ground. Kutoka kwa wakubwa wetu huko juu sasa kama DCC tumeungana zote sasa, yenyewe tumekuwa na raids huko, all the clubs tunaendelea huko kuangalia kama kuna hizo mapombe zinaingia, na information bado tunachukua. If there is anything kama hiyo pombe tunaenda tunakamata na tunapeleka na tunastaki yao.
This is following orders from the county governor Anne Odida and the former security CS Professor Kithure Kindiki.
All existing valid licenses will be vetted afresh.
Residents of the area have lost faith in the local administration in the fight against the killer brews.
Mimi ningetaka niulize nikiwa ofisini nilifanya kazi mingi sana ya kupigana na pombe haramu na mihadarati kwa sababu ya watoto wetu. Tangu watufurushe, nimeona hiyo pombe haramu imeanza kurudi. Yameanza kurudi ya kuharibu watoto wetu. Hao watoto ni wetu. Hakuna haja mrudishe pombe ati ndio idhuru hao vijana, ati ndio kazi ile Rigathi Gachagua alifanya ionekane ni bure. Hiyo ni kuumiza watoto ambao hawana hatia. Hao wazazi wote wangetaka, hata kanisa, tupigane na mihadarati na zile pombe haramu, ndio watoto wetu waweze kuishi na ile njia ambayo inafaa.
The California incident becomes a reason to deal to have claimed a significant number of people due to illicit alcohol, with a total of 50 people succumbing to complications occasioned by second-generation liquor. Ruga Eval, TV47.
Sports News brought to you by
All right, let's now shift gears to matters sports. Youth Affairs, Creative Economy and Sports Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has endorsed the new Football Kenya Federation leadership duo of Hussein Mohamed and Mark Donald Marige as the right people to transform the state of football in the country. All right, now this comes just a day after Hussein Mohamed was elected the Football Kenya Federation president. The Cabinet Secretary further went on to state that the government will keep on investing in the construction of sports academies in different parts of the country through the Kenya Academy of Sports in a bid to nurture and grow talent at the grassroots level.
Nilipromise Kenya kwamba tutabadilisha football ya Kenya na tutabadilisha uongozi ya FKF. Mliona uongozi ya jana, uchaguzi ulifanywa na tuko na timu mpya ambao wako na energy, ambao wamechakuliwa na members ya football wenyewe. Sasa we have a new team in FKF na ninataka kuhakikisha wananchi kwamba Hussein Mohamed na McDonald Marika na timu yao hawa watabadilisha mpira yetu, kwa sababu ni watu nimewachunguza. Tutaweza kufanya kazi pamoja kama Ministry ya Sports in a transparent manner and in a very accountable manner kuhakikisha our football goes forward. To the Kenya Academy of Sports, sisi tumesema ya kwamba vijana wetu wachanga, watoto wadogo ambao wako na uwezo kutoka miaka 8 mpaka 17 wenye wako na talent na wako shule, tutawachukua na tuhakikishe kwamba wale wako the cream team, tutakuchukua kila holiday, tunapeleka holiday camp wakuwe trained.
Now, the Kenya Premier League defending champions Gor Mahia were earlier today stand 1-0 by Bidco United at the Kenyatta Stadium. Bidco's Eric Muchibu scored the all-important goal.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna.
mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair.
All right, welcome back. Thank you for staying with us. You're watching a TV47 Weekend Edition, and it's time for To The Point. And tonight, we are talking matters engaging men and boys as allies in combating gender-based violence. Remember, today is day 14 of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. And December 8th typically focuses on creating or raising awareness about the impact of GBV and advocating for solutions to end such violence. Now, as always, just to start us off with some data before we get right into this conversation, let's just start with the scope of the problem. Now, 1 in 3 women have been subjected to physical or sexual violence by an intimate partner or non-partner sexual violence, or both. That is 30% of women, that is according to WHO. Let's take a look at the global comparison. Now, in Kenya, 30% of women experience physical or sexual intimate partner violence in their lifetime, or even both. Of course, we have other sources with the varying figures. We have Kenya Red Cross right here in studio, and you'll also help me with those figures that we have right now that we're looking at. At United States, 25% of women experience physical or sexual intimate partner violence in their lifetime. And in India, it's 29%, Brazil 33%, and United Kingdom 28%. Now let's take a look at the demographic breakdown. There's more prevalence rates for women aged 15 to 19, 20 to 24, up to 49 years of age. Higher rates of GBV are often observed among women with lower education levels. Links between GBV and households' wealth quintiles are explored, and rural areas often report higher prevalence due to traditional norms. That is according to the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey. Let's take a look now at the trends by region. High prevalence regions, we have Nyanza and Western, and that is linked to deeply entrenched cultural practices and norms. We have Rift Valley, larger population size means higher absolute numbers, and once again that is according to the KDHS. Low prevalence regions, we see Nairobi, high awareness and access to GBV support services, and the guests we have in studio can attest to that now that they're doing more work in the informal settlement right here in Nairobi. And in a few, I'll engage them to understand why not in Nyanza and Rift Valley regions, where we see that there are more prevalence cases right there. We have, again, low prevalence regions. We have Central, where cultural shifts and socio-economic factors likely contribute to low cases of GBV. Once again, that is according to the Kenya Demographic and Health Survey. Now, just to mention types of violence assessed by the KDHS, we have physical violence, which includes acts such as hitting, slapping, kicking, or other physical harm. We have sexual violence, emotional violence, economic violence. Although this is less emphasized, it may involve withholding financial resources or economic manipulation. Now, perpetrators of violence, according to KDHS, once again, violence committed by intimate partners, violence by family members, violence workplace related. Now, let's take a look at legal frameworks. We have the Sexual Offence Act of 2006, which establishes penalties for sexual crimes and safeguards survivors' rights. We have Protection Against Domestic Violence Act of 2015. This provides protection and remedies for domestic violence survivors. We have Children Act 2001. This addresses violence against minors, including provision against child marriage and abuse. Now, in 2023, just to mention, Kenya established at least 5 specialized sexual and gender-based violence courts in regions, including Siaya, Kisumu, Kibra, and Makadara, to just expedite GBV cases and improve access to justice for survivors. Now, let's take a look at policy initiatives. National Policy on Prevention and Response to GBV 2014. It guides GBV prevention and response strategies across sectors. We have a National Gender and Equality Commission. It monitors and promotes gender equality, ensuring GBV policies are implemented effectively. Now we have Kenya's Roadmap to Advancing Gender Equality 2021, and this is where it gets interesting. Now, this aims to eliminate all forms of GBV and female genital mutilation, FGM, by 2026, focusing on systemic barriers. These actions are part of the country's broader efforts to address GBV and related issues such as HIV infections and teenage pregnancies, with a target to eliminate the triple threat by 2027. And that includes the conversation we're having tonight, gender-based violence. Karibuni sana to studio, gentlemen and a lady. How are you doing?
Good.
Just to start here, where just right next to me we have Peter Mwaniki, and Peter is a young man resilience champion from the Mathare region. We have Charlene Nasimiyu, Charlene or Charlene? Charlene Nasimiyu, GBV officer, Kenya Red Cross, and right next to Charlene on her left is Valentine Onyango, a young man resilience champion from Mukuru, Fuata, Nyayo. Now, you will be helping me with this conversation tonight, and we know how important it is right now. We are talking about eliminating gender-based violence by 2026, and that is according to Kenya's Roadmap to Advancing Gender Equality 2021. The Ministry of Health aims to eradicate this triple threat by 2027. Clearly, we are supposed to gain ground by 2027. Yeah. Are we in the right track indeed, or are we losing track? Peter.
Actually, we're in the right track. Because we are focusing on engaging young men, since young men are said to be the first perpetrators of the GBV. So we are trying as much as possible, including the young men in our programs that we have in Mathare. As a champion, we normally have a program known as the YMR, that's the Young Men Resilience Program, that involves young men, especially in the behavioral change.
Mm-hmm. All right, we'll be getting into that topic of engagement quite in a few. But Charlene, just to get your views, are we in the right track, or we are losing track in terms of combating gender-based violence?
Okay, to say we are on the right track may be an understatement to say. But I believe change is gradual, and it takes time for us to get there. But from the statistics we're getting, especially from the Sustainable Development Goals report in 2021, we actually realize that we are still not yet on track. Because yes, GBV is an agenda that we're talking about right now. This is something that people are talking about right now. Countries are really trying to do a lot. You've shown us some about the legal policies that are in place, legal frameworks, the policies that are in place, some of the things that the government is doing. But still, we are not seeing initiatives that are being brought, or rather funds that are being set aside to address gender-based violence. And that is why also we are here today, so to speak, so as to just show the importance as to why we need to allocate funds in combating gender-based violence, and also why we need to really make it a big issue, or rather a matter of national importance for our country, so to speak.
You've mentioned the legal framework. Hold on to that point. I'll be coming back to it later on. Great. But let me get your views, Valentine, on this conversation that you're having right now. Are you seeing, are we on the right track, or bado tuko nyuma? We see a lot of cases of gender-based violence have been reported this year, and it's not only this year. We saw a rise after COVID-19, that period, and we haven't seen a drop since. So are we on the right track, or we are losing track?
So according to me, nasema kidogo tunajaribu lakini bado. Sababu ukiangalia pale mtaani kuna assumptions mingi, bado vijana wanafanya mambo zao, bado utapata kwa manyumba, bado utasikia nduru usiku, utapata mama lala nje na watoto, utapata some kind of cases zipo, utasikia kuna assault, kuna nini zafanyika, utasikia mtu alidungwa na kisu, utasikia mtu alikufa. So me being part of pia Kenya Red Cross, unapata response bana ziko tu mingi, mtaani ni simu, inamaanisha ndio tunangangana, tunasensitize, lakini kidogo kwa track kidogo tunafaa tukaze kamba zaidi. Yeah.
So where are the loopholes exactly, and what do you think, Charlene, should be addressed and must be addressed? Because 2027 is just around the corner. Leave alone 2027. The GEC, the one we were talking about, Kenya's Roadmap to Advancing Gender Equality by 2021. Its aim, it's within 2026 which is next year too. Yeah. So what exactly, where are the loopholes and what should we be doing?
All right, so just to look, when you look at gender-based violence and you're looking at some of the core reasons, or rather the underlying factors that are making GBV to be very prevalent, we're looking at issues of cultural norms, you know, and practices, and also looking at issues of power imbalance. So to address gender-based violence, really, and to ensure that this issue has gains ground and we're doing something about it, and to gain a positive trajectory towards addressing it, we start from there. How are we, what are some of the things we are doing to address this, you know, norms that are perpetrating gender-based violence? What are some of these things? Who are the people we are engaging? You know, there is what the issue is, who are the people we are engaging? What are the strategies we are using? So when you're looking at all that, you're looking at, are they geared towards the right direction? And also just not looking at issues holistically and just saying GBV is here, women are usually affected. Let's also look at it at a lens of the gender equality lens and also inclusion lens, you know, so who are the main players? Who do we need to talk to address these issues? So I would really look at issues of power, addressing the power inequality bit of it, and also addressing cultural norms, gender and cultural norms that are really the main reason why we are experiencing all these things we are experiencing today.
When you talk about power imbalance, what do you mean exactly?
When you're talking about power, I mean, there is in the spectrum of power, we can say we have there is power over. This we mean we have people who will always be at the top of the ladder, and them being at the top of the ladder will definitely have privileges. They have advantage over the people who are below. So somebody will take advantage of them being in control of issues to just repress or suppress people who are below them, and also just looking at also power. Right now we're looking at us having a situation where we are having power with, like, yes, I have power, but how is this power affecting people around me? How is it affecting the people I am under, or people who are over, or people? So we're really looking at equalizing things, and that is why the equality bit comes in. So instead of people being in power abusing that power, I know people might look or listen to this and just look at it at the maybe workplace spectrum of it. Even in the society, there is a place where in society we cannot say all of us are equal. We have those who have advantage over the others, and in most cases you find men are always above the ladder, and that is why we are coming up with issues of or rather we are trying to come up with projects, programs, or initiatives of ensuring that there is balance of this power. That is why we are having things to do like with the transformative actions and initiatives that are coming about, just to ensure that this power is balanced and everybody or everyone is treated equally, because they are also human beings. Yes.
All right, now when we're talking about male engagement, Peter, is this a conversation that you really want to have? Let's say uko pale nje you're playing football with your fellow men, or not necessarily playing football, ama mko pale nje mnaongelelea football. Is this a conversation that you as Peter want to really have, and how do you feel about it in terms of being allies in combating gender-based violence?
On that point, actually men want to talk, but the space where they can maybe talk of their issues, it's challenging. So what we do as a team or as champions, we normally have a kind of games, like you said, of football, whereby young men talk and exchange ideas or maybe issues affecting them in the terms of gender-based violence. Maybe they are being affected at their household level. They don't have someone to express their feelings to, or maybe their issues to. So at this point, this is where the young men, they come and talk and open up.
All right, I want to understand what young men resilience really stands for. Are they fighting for fellow men, or is it in essence just trying to also teach men how to treat women and how to be gender sensitive? Valentine?
So as for me, I can say that the young men, it is initially making the empowerment to the boy child so that he can understand the value and the life as well. There is those pillars that a boy child should have so that he can cultivate into different problems within the society. And being we as men always sisi ndio kama vichwa ya nyumba.
Right.
So tukiwa kichwa nyumba kidogo imepiga kona. So YMR imekuja kujaribu kurudisha tena kwa laini. Wajue what are the responsibility, what are the norms, nini wanafaa kuwa wanafanya within the local setting so that tunaweza protect wasichana, tunaweza protect vijana. Tunaweza protect hata ukimwi yetu. You can see sahi kila mtu analia kuna dogo kuna nini. So unapata hata financial violence inaendelea pale mtaani, lakini kwa kijana ashajua stand yake, anakuwa rahisi kuchukua responsibility kwa life.
So in short, it starts from the men, Valentine.
Yeah, automatically you see, I can say, tuangazia ndio perpetrators. Si ndio tuna feel tuna boss the round. So tukiona girl child ndio kuchukua space yetu kidogo, nikaa tunaigonga kichwa kidogo, rudi pale bana, rudi jua area yako. But the initial is when tunataka ku build this world, God alileta them, the girl child, for the support purpose. Si kugongwa kichwa, rudi pale chini. Ni akuja kuambia ni aje pale, hii ni wrong, na hivyo unaifanya for support yangu kidogo. So unataki lazima kijana pia aonyeshwe, anafaa kuwa on top, anafaa kuelimishwa, anafaa kuelezwa ni aje, umelose track mahali. Haja moja kuja walie ndio tukue juu. Wajaletwa bleed, wanaletwa hii dunia ndio fanya nini? Tukue happy pale because hao ndio soulmates.
All right, hold on to that point, Valentine. We are taking a very fast short break right at this point, but you're coming back to continue with this. Is this a conversation that you really want to have? Sending your feedback at 22047 and on our social media platforms at TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube, and TV47 News KE on Twitter. You're watching To The Point. Stay with us.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph,
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m.
All right, thank you for staying with us. Let's continue with our discussion of the night, and we're trying to take a look at how can we get men and boys to be part of the fight, just to be equal partners, to be stakeholders, to take ownership in the fight against ending violence against women and girls. And before we went on that very short break, Valentine, you were telling us about the women we came to be helpers in the society, and sometimes men, you do not want to feel like women are taking your space. But I'll be coming back to that in a few. But my question was, do you really feel that this is a conversation that you want to have when you're now being put in places where you're told, you know, we need to be partners in ending violence against women and girls? Because the 16 days of activism against GBV, it focuses on women and girls, and we understand that men also go through GBV. But is this a conversation that you really want to have, Valentine?
Yeah, as for me, I can say yes. It is part of us. As I usually say it, women are part of our ribs, so we are part and parcel. And as long as nimekuambia tu, sisi ndio tumewekwa kama perpetrators. So ndio ishe, meza lazima ikuwe na kijana. Haina kitu kingine. Lazima kijana kama kwa meza ajue nini anafaa kudu kwa the scenario. Sijasema si tudhulumiwi. Kuna some scenario mwana tunapigwa pasi and some stuff. And pia hii conversation inafaa tu only for boy, inafaa kuwa kila stakeholder inafaa kuwa on board. Inamaanisha the government, the non-governmental, Kenya Red Cross, each and every person inafaa kuvuta kamba to the end goal. And this thing now inakuja point ya goal ni kumaliza violence. Iwe ni ya kijinsia, iwe ni ya kidemi, iwe ni ya chali, iwe ni ya nani. Goal ni to stop the gender violence. Now this comes now, lazima tupate education, watu waelimishwe. Lazima tuingie kwa ground. Lazima pia wale kwa ground, take things positive that, yeah, it is our battle. And pia tuweze kujua ni wapi influence ya kutuchapia. So we have to get back to that scenario, then tujue, sisi kama vijana, role yetu ni gani. As long as tunajua role yetu, the female gender wanajua role yao, tunapatiana, like, unafaa kufika hapa, this is our limit, this is our limit, lakini ikisemekana hapa kusaidia, atakusaidia. Na usifeel like anakushadow. Weka mwanaume, feel, madam amekuja kusaidia, anataka kununua gari, ataki kuwa boss wa nyumba.
Interesting. Now, Shalene, what does effective engagement mean and look like to you?
Okay, effective engagement, I would say to me, looks like when the people we are targeting with these interventions are able to come out and, and take part in the change that we are really looking to see. And maybe just allow me to elaborate a little bit about the Young Men Resilience Program.
Yes.
So this Young Men Resilience Program is a program that is targeting young men in the informal settlements. And currently Kenya Red Cross, actually this is with partnership, we got funding from Danish Red Cross to implement this project. And this is after, when you look at informal settlements, you'll find, not even informal settlements, in any other setting, you'll find there are so many other initiatives and projects targeting the girl child. You're looking at, you talked about us combating the triple threat and all that. So when you're talking about ending GBV, ending new HIV infections, combating all that, and sexual and gender-based violence, and we are not addressing the people who we are said to be the perpetrators, because when you look at the statistics, it's showing us that men are actually the main perpetrators of gender-based violence. So bringing them to the table also helps address the issues. We want to understand where they're coming from. We want to understand their thinking. We want to understand what is this that is making them do what they do. And you're looking at, I would say, I don't want to call it toxic masculinity,
right?
But I would say what is defined to be a man, and if you look at it from from like way back up to now, masculinity is associated with being aggressive, is associated with aggression, is associated with violence. You know, we're telling our boys and men you have to fight. You know, when somebody, so we're trying to redefine this and tell men, as much as masculinity is associated with all these things, it can also be associated with empathy, with respect, yeah, and bringing them to the table is actually part of addressing this solution. So effective strategies being put in place is them coming out as champions, as you can see these two men here, them talking about these issues openly and not, I know there's a lot of peer influence, your peers will look at you as weak, but even them being able to raise this awareness in the spaces where they have power, or in the spaces where they have audience. So that to me, and also looking at policies and laws that are being implemented in a way that will address these issues, then we can say we are headed there. We are headed in the right direction.
All right. Of course, we need to take on the violence that comes with masculinity in our communities. Our men are really exposed to, we see terms like, you have to fight that woman in order for her to respect you. And now, when we're talking about such matters, how do we now address them, Charlene?
All right, so, and still brings me to the point of bringing men to the table. So when you look at some of the instances where we are, let's look at the empowerment of women. We want to empower the women to curb some of these issues. And one of the issues that we're really trying to curb actually is the economic bit of it. We are doing a lot of economic empowerment to women so they're able to stand on their feet and do things on their own, not be dependent on partners who are abusive to them. But now, I'll take an example. I take an initiative like that in Mathare. And we have these young women or young girls who are facing gender-based violence. I'm empowering them, I start a business for them, and I'm not engaging men as part of that discussion. So at the end of the day, you find I'm coming up with solutions, but they're detrimental still to that woman. The woman might be killed, or, you know, you see cases of this man took all my money, like Inyemulinipatia, you know, as a project. So we start from the beginning, engaging them from the beginning, at the planning phase, before we go to the implementation phase. We get to hear their views. What do you think would be, you know, like we do this, especially in our projects at Kenya Red Cross. We engage men, and we tell them, this is a project that is coming to this, this community. We are going to empower women. Do you think it will have any positive impact in your family as a whole? We try to make them understand why we are doing what we are doing. When they are on board, or they really buy into what we are trying to do, as much as empowering women is concerned, then we find very few cases of them being resistant. So them being engaged from the beginning of these discussions that we are having, and working with them through all these phases, then makes change very easy, or rather it bears fruits now. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, Peter Valentine mentioned a very interesting point to me, and he said, for this conversation, for women to feel safe, then men lazima wakue kwa your table. So is it that you actually want to be in the table, or you're being in the table because wacha tukae ishe? You know, because that is how I understood this point. Like, Nikama, let me just be the bigger person so that the issue can be done away with. But what do you think about that? Do you really want to be part of the conversation, Peter?
Actually, I will talk on the side of men.
Yes. I want you to talk as Peter.
Yes.
No, not for men.
I'm representing the men.
Exactly, yeah. All right.
So, one thing, kuzaliwa ghetto makes you a number one suspect, ama informal settlement. So ndio upate this young man anakuja kuongea ama ku air out issue yake, inakuanga ni ngumu sana. Men are said to be so secretive. Ndio upate huyu mwanaume anaongea, lazima kue amekupatia ile trust, umempatia ile trust, nikikwambia kitu hauta nyamaza. So mwanaume kukuja on this table kudiscuss issue ya GBV, lazima kuwe na ile trust. nikiongea haitafanyika. We men tunapigwa
na nani anawapiga?
Okay, tunapigwa kwa manyumba zetu lakini hatuongei. Lakini inafika a point inabidi uongee. So ndio tu wanapatia ile chance ya kuongea, tunaenda kwa mabezi zao. Ndio upate mwanaume anakuambia shida yake, lazima umpate kwa ile comfort zone yake. So tunaenda kwa hizo mabezi zao kuleta hiyo conversation ya GBV. Wewe nini inaendelea? Nyumbani nini inaendelea? Nani ako affected most? So hapo ndio tunakuja tunapata solutions kwa hizi issues za GBV.
Amazing. Now, modeling men. I see you're laughing, Shalane, but I'll give you your time. Modeling men requires candid conversations. Now, I want to understand how you guys are approaching these conversations. How are you ensuring that you are not exposing them to a point where whatever you're telling these young men is perpetuating gender-based violence against women?
So, kwangu mimi nasema venye tu mwenzangu amesema, setup ni pako safe kwa vijana.
So what exactly are you telling these vijana?
So au vijana lazima tuonyeshe what the constitution inasema. The law about human rights. Lazima tuwashow. Tuonyeshe jela ni miaka ngapi. Si threat lakini the moment unafanya a sexual harassment, sijui umepigana na dem, sijui umemrape, mlikuwa geri, mkasema alijipa, mkafanya mambo yenu. Unajua lazima tukwambie tu sheria na wewe ikunjwe. Especially sisi kutoka ghetto. Mwenzangu na mwenzangu sisi tukangatuka suspect. So sheria wewe ikunjwe kwetu. Yote inakuwa na kunyorosha mzuri, asikia mzee miaka 21 kwa jela, uko na 20 years, piga 21 nyingine. Unasikia tena umeambiwa 40. Kwa hivyo kuja kudunini. Lazima tuambie tu ni aje. Ama dem lazima tuwalinde. So pia watakuchallenge. Vale na sisi nani tutetea. And this is the good thing why Marley come. Na atuko kupointia ku struggle about who is the best and nani analindwa. But tunataka kuja kama na ile inclusivity thing whereby unapata sisi kama vijana tunajua wa roles. Tunajua udem hata kikuja akikwambia ABC ama hizo vitu anataka kuleta kwa nyumba, tena unamwambia naje ndio stand yangu, acha mambo mingi. Na hii stand ndio kuaffect na uwezi kutake the moment uko pale kwa ile base tumwambia, utapata kijana hata tupa ngumi. Ndio wanaweza jibishana kidogo lakini namwambia naje cheki hii ndio hivi ndio kuko. So at the end of the day unapata kwa conflict resolution aja take the negative aspect of conflict resolution. Aja tupa blow. Ajamua juu dem leo. Lazima tajua pia mimi ni chali kwa nyumba. Ama okay. Disenda kutoka hata nikuondokee kwanza utulie, tutakuja kubonga baadaye. Rather than ile masala lazima just madem, unajua lazima tutupe kawaida mademu wote. Kidogo akichemuka ameenda 100. Sasa ameenda hiyo 100, the best thing tunaambia vijana, kiona dema ameenda juu, lazima ushuke.
Right.
Na hiyo kushuka kwako, haimaanishi wewe ni mnyonge. Imaanisha umetumia brain sana. Avoid. One thing of conflict resolution ni avoid easy cascade kwa sorry unasikia panga ililia dem kidogo anakuja asubuhi hata hizi toa ile urembo alikuwa nayo. Jua nini? Akona black eye. Ana meno amekuwa mapengo, ameanza kujieka machuma kwa meno ati masling. Kumbe usiku ni ngumi ilia. So kijana anaambiwa ni aje? Avoid kitu inazaleta vita kwa nyumba. So avoidance is one of the aspect yenye pia tunapokuambia ni aje? Si lazima wa cry, si lazima a bleed, si lazima ushow wewe ndio ndume. Sometimes kutumia brain inamaliza mambo mingi sana kulikana na
Amazing, and that is also how we fight the toxic masculinity in our communities, if you guys do agree with me. Now, Shalene, we also have overload of information. It is everywhere. We have social media. But what other platforms can we really leverage to ensure that this information is being packaged well for it to land right?
Yeah, I really like that. Apart from this is one of the avenues you're doing, like advocacy to end this. And apart from it starting from an individual level, fighting gender-based violence, or rather ending it, is a multi-sectoral approach, or rather it requires so many other stakeholders. So I would point out the first is the church. So if you look at our Kenyan population, majority of our Kenyans are Christians. So, and if you look at it very well, during the political season, you are almost approaching to it, politicians will go and camp in church because they know there is a lot of influence from the church. I don't want to get political for that matter, but let me just go straight to the point. So I'm thinking, if we now engage the church in the fight against gender-based violence, where they even not the church only, even the the religion, even the sheikh going to speaking against gender-based violence, the pastors, not encouraging, when they are doing marital counseling and it is gender-based violence, them not covering up for such issues, them speaking against it, them being part of the 16 days of activism, showing their commitment and stand against gender-based violence. That's a very good platform to do that. Another platform is also at the schools. We say in gender-based violence programming that children who witness violence will either be perpetrators or survivors. So it starts from a very young age. When you tell them what gender-based violence is, what they can do to fight gender-based violence, the prevention, mitigation, and all those measures, when you start even from the schools and integrate gender-based violence into our curriculum, then that will be a win for us as a society. Another platform would also be having conversations at the community level. And one of the advantages we have as Kenya Red Cross, we are always there. Our presence is in all the 47 counties, and our projects and the programs are community-based. We want communities to come up with their own solutions, to do a retrospect of what are some of the ailing issues or the detrimental cultural norms that are ailing them as a community, and them coming up with those solutions. So engaging them at the community level, letting them take lead in the fight against gender-based violence, that is a win for us. Because once Kenya Red Cross exits that community or any other project exits, it's something we have left in them. It's something that they're still practicing and something that they're still doing. Yeah.
All right. Now, that also brings me to the point of Nairobi being on higher awareness and higher access to GBV support services. And that, of course, is according to the KDHS. Yes. Now, are you spread across these? You mentioned Kenya Red Cross is spread across the 47 counties, but this program, the Young Men Resilience, is it only in Nairobi, in the informal settlements? Now that they are more aware of gender-based violence cases, are you also in Nyanza? Tuseme kwetu sahi ukienda pale seme, will I find such a program there?
Okay, so as I'd mentioned, the Young Men Resilience Project is a program that is being funded by the Danish Red Cross, and they have a scope. Of course, every program has a scope, and the scope is where they felt this issue is really pertinent and they wanted to address it, and that is why we are addressing it in Mathare, informal settlements, and in Mukuru. And hopefully, as the project also ends in 2025, we hope to get more funding to do it in other areas. And another important thing to mention is we work with the Nairobi City County government. So one of the ways of sustainability is us working with the county governments and the national governments, just letting them in what we are doing, so that when this project exists in 2025, they're still able to support these young men in their ventures and in the initiatives in ending gender-based violence. So one of the things we're also keen on, we are actually onboarded in the plus for Kenya. We have the men's sector, men inclusion, the technical working group for men. So in the GBV technical working group, there are very many other subsectors, but the new one is the male engagement, which is a plus, and these young men are also part of that platform. So we're also hoping the national government, being part of it now, is able to take, or rather pick up the lessons learned from us, from this project that we're implementing, and try and streamline it to all these other places in Kenya, the way you're talking about Seme, Coast, Wapi, everywhere. So it's a matter of them taking up the lessons learned. How did you do this? And we are more than willing to send these young men in all those areas to capacity build and mentor other champions who will speak up and address issues such as gender-based violence.
All right. Now, I'm very glad that we have men on set today to also give us their voice in this conversation that we're having. Now, Peter, do you think that the realities of a fatherless generation is also contributing to this spike in gender-based violence cases?
From my side, I would say it's a yes, since we don't have the father figures to direct us to the right path.
Valentine, do you agree with that? A fatherless generation, sasa tunaona kuna cases mingi za unasikia mtu anasema deadbeat. Of course, we know they're single moms. So would you say that a fatherless generation has led to the spike?
Fatherless generation, jo, ma deadbeats hawako na ina lead pia kwa history of violence. Nikisema hivyo pia hizi ama deadbeats wanakuja through different aspects mtaani. Yenye na feel gava inafaa come on board pia kusaidia the young men pale down. So unapatia dem ball, watu wawili, una wera. Kama kijana mzee, shouting inaanza pale kijani. Ukipiga hesabu mzee, kuna area Malindi mzee, unaweza ndo pige tu nini yako. Mbona mzee usidodge because unaona ukija tu kwa keja mzee, dikelele unakutana nayo. So unacheki, mimi nasema government afa ku bring up different aspects za vijana wapate mboka. Kwa mboka ni job. Tumejaribu kuicreate. Okay, sasa kata. Tumejaribu kuicreate pia sisi kwa down. Kuna vitu tunafanya art, tunacheza ball, kuna dancing crews inaendelea kwa down. Lakini unapata kuna finance kubwa imewekwa tu kwa budget. Unapiga budget yao ukiona siku ya budget sijui do ilirudi. Najiuliza inarudiaje na ground hii pesa hajafika. Tunaona tu society kama Kenya Red Cross ina come on ground. Yet wanafaa kuwa wamepata more boost from the government whereby to implement hizi vitu vijana wapate job. The fatherless society haitakuwa because naweza provide, naweza provide. Wife atakuwa na furaha pale, anajua niko na mwanaume ana provide. Na vitu mingi unapojangaza patani hii, hakuna chakula kwa nyumba. Wife amanza kelele. Kidogo inabidi tukipia kwa taka substance abuse, unajifanya ati hiyo ndio scapegoat, unajipeleka huko. But at the end of the day, let us venture into programs zenye bring economic empowerment, especially kwa young men. Na jasema tu kwa vijana peke yake, hadi kwa madem. Kwa nini nasema hadi kwa madem? Dem akosado, wanake kule ni ana pia kakitu. Kuna possibility utapatana na kabazu hapo, ampige kani ngiri mbili, inakuwa ni form. Sasa demu inakuwa ni form kwa udem, mimi nikuja nijue mama wa kwangu ama mrembo wa kwangu bana, kuna venye anachezanga mambo yake na kabuda fulani. Bona always come. So anaweza sema tujaribu kuwa capacity build kama youths. Tujaribu kupatiwa. Sasa inaweza kuna kazi mtaani. Uizi kidogo imepungua because nini? Vijana wako wako wera. Sasa gava ianga kuangalia kwa culture, kuna culture and art. Kuna mambo na waste management programs, kuna environmental, najua kuna rivers commission on board. So tunaomba au madem wakuja on board, au vijana wakuja on board, upate umepata ajira, elimu izidi kuingia kwao. Vita yatoka wapi kwa nyumba? Kama umeshiba, mimi najuanga kama uko njaa huwezi pigana, lakini kama umeshiba furaha iko kwa nyumba.
All right, just hold on to that point, and time is really running. But Shalin, what are the challenges when it comes to engaging men and boys in pushing and ending the fight against gender-based violence? What is holding men back?
So I would say one, and I'd mentioned it before, the stigma that comes with it. Your peers looking at you as weak. You know, masculinity has been labeled as, you know, the aggression bit of it. They are not, they are not put down, they are not told what to do. So that stigma or that comes with it for them being labeled as weak because they're championing for this cause is one of the reasons. Another reason is also the lack of funds and also initiatives that is bringing men on board, or rather capacity building men to be able to come out and be champions. Capacity building, I mean making them understand what gender-based violence is, how do they come in to address these situations. So you find like in Kenya, I'm sure they're very, very, we can actually pinpoint them. We are in this same working space with them. They're very few as compared to other initiatives that are addressing issues of the girl child. So apart from the funds and the stigma that comes with it, those are actually the main ones I would say that is making men shy to be part of that agenda.
All right, amazing. Thank you so much, Shalin, for your views. And Peter, just as we wind up, send a message to the men and boys watching tonight who are listening. How can they get involved in this fight and even further onboarding other men in this conversation?
My parting shot to the men outside there is to tell them to amplify the voices of the voiceless. We have voiceless men maybe in the community, but if we have the knowledge, if we have the information, let's amplify, let other men know that GBV is a disaster and it's a crime. And we have a lot of groups, working groups in the community. Let's use these groups to pass information to the men and the women outside there.
Valentine, what would you say to the men and young boys watching you tonight?
Ni si lazima wa bleed ndio to live.
Amazing. Amazing. All right. And for you who is watching tonight, the numbers are very worrying. This vice is not ending as at now. So I think it's just a collective action for us to also coming in the fight against gender-based violence. And just to read one comment that we have coming in here, Alex from Utawala says, the favoritism of women in workplaces and access to opportunities is also contributing to men feeling resentment. When there's a job opportunity, I used to show up and I'd see women being favored despite me having better qualifications. I saw that many times till I stopped bothering and decided to do business. Because if it's men who are hiring, they look at the skirt and beauty of women. If it's women hiring, they will also prefer to hire women. I hope you're listening. And he says, we are raising empowered women to be married by who? The disempowered man. Another thing, there's a lack of mentors for the boy child. Deadbeat culture also hurts men because they have no father figures in their lives. So that are very strong points right there. That should be a parting shot. Charlene, what do you have to say about that?
Yes. So I would say, just to reiterate to a comment that has been made there, we are raising empowered women to be married by who?
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, we really need to bring men into this conversation. We really need to make them part and parcel of ending gender-based violence. And the only way of doing that is engaging them and empowering them to live with that empowered woman as well. And also, I would just want to say also, ending GBV is a collective responsibility for each and every one of us. It starts with you, your reflections, you know, your habits, your cultures, what is informing what you do. So at the end of the day, it starts with you. So even you witnessing violence and saying nothing about it, you hearing your neighbor being hit and saying nothing about it also makes you part of that vice. So let us speak up, and to survivors of gender-based violence, we see you, we hear you, and we believe you.
Correct. We see you, we hear you, and we believe you. Thank you so much for watching To The Point and for watching TV47 Weekend Edition in general. Thank you so much, Peter Moniki, Shelin Nasimiu, and Valentine Onyango for gracing the show tonight. That's a wrap, and thank you so much for watching. My name is Anne Odida, and see you next time, inshallah.